All right, night class. I've got the results of the belief quiz that I had given you from last week. And when you look at the study guide, what you'll end up seeing up there is that there are actually 4 terms for the ideology chapter. Ideology, the chapter, the 4 terms are actually going to be liberal, conservative, libertarian, and populist. And basically, I've got you guys divided up into 4 quadrants on this graph paper. And I can show you this in person if you'd like to see it at a different time. But for exam purposes and for our purpose, what I really want to do is I want to focus on the regulation of economic issues or wallet issues and the government regulation of bedroom or moral issues. Really, the idea behind this belief quiz that I've given you in this graph is that basically you can predict with a reasonable amount of certainty a person's political affiliation, their political beliefs, if you know how much they believe that government should or shouldn't regulate economic issues, and how much, in fact, government should or shouldn't regulate moral or bedroom issues. So this, cleverly enough, is known as the bedroom and the wallet quiz. Now, as you look at this, we've got 4 quadrants up here. And you'll notice that there's a plus up here and a plus up here, just like in any other regular plane. You got your plus and your plus, and then you've got your minus down here, and then you've got another minus that's over here. This horizontal line is basically known as the wallet line. And if you scored on this side of the wallet line, that basically means that you're going to believe in more government regulation of economic issues. And if you score on this other side, the left side, in fact, you're going to believe in less. The horizontal, pardon me, that's the wallet line. The vertical line is actually the bedroom line, and this is the one that's dealing with morals. So when you look at this one, if you score above this line, the higher you score above, the more that you believe that government should regulate moral types, social types of issues, and the more that you scored below, in fact, you'll recognize right off that you believe in less government regulation. Now, to kind of fill this in, and I'll start down here in this bottom left-hand quadrant, and as I come down in this bottom left-hand quadrant, I may even go ahead and zoom in on this just a little bit. And you'll notice up here that there's really 5 names that are down here in this bottom left-hand quadrant. And just for the sake of a point of reference, this big circle that's there in the center is basically the exact center of the graph. We've got Annie, we've got Rosario, Sam, Eleni, and Asmara. All of you are actually on the exact same point up here. If you believe that government should not regulate economic or moral issues, and if you believe that government should not regulate, well actually economic or wallet issues, if you believe that government should not regulate moral or bedroom issues, you folks are actually what are known as my libertarians. Libertarians can be confused sometimes, but basically a libertarian is going to say that the government that governs best is the government that governs least. And the thought process is that libertarians are going to say that people should have the freedom to do what they want to do with their money because they've earned it. If they haven't earned enough money, then in fact they're not necessarily going to believe that government should help those that do. When you think about it in terms of moral issues, libertarians are going to say that government should stay out of moral issues. So when you start talking about things like gay marriage or the legalization of weed, these are things that go on behind closed doors. This isn't government's prerogative. This is each individual person's. Now we got 5 people in here. Annie, you basically said that government should not regulate on 4 of 7 questions in terms of both bedroom and wallet. So Annie, effectively, the way that you scored on this, if we changed one question, you could actually have ended up in any of the 4 boxes. You're leaning libertarian, but really the way that it looks is it depends on the issue. So in some issues you believe that government should largely stay out of things, but you do have a fair amount of belief in regulation as well. For Rosario, Sam, Eleni, and Asmara, you're on the same line as Annie in terms of wallet issues. On 4 of the 7, you believe that government should stay out of economic or wallet regulation. So basically, more often than not, you believe that you should be able to keep the money that you earn. You believe, when you think about it, that government should avoid playing Robin Hood and taking from the rich and giving to the poor. With this said, though, on 5 of the 7 questions, y'all, the 4 of you, Rosario, Sam, Eleni, and Asmara, believe that government should stay out of morals. So you're much stronger libertarian on moral or social issues than you are actually in terms of economic ones. So when you look at this, although you have the exact same mindset in terms of economics, you have a very different mindset in terms of morals. but you folks are my libertarians. You know, it's funny, we were talking about weed and things like this at different points. That was one of the questions. Libertarians actually have a plank on their platform that says that they believe in the legalization of weed. So maybe some more of you want to become libertarians after you hear this. But the bottom line for our purposes is limited government regulation of economics and also of morals. Now, if you go over one, you'll notice down here in the bottom left or right-hand corner, and this is a little bit different. You'll notice over here we've got Emery and Bowie here. And if you believe that government should regulate wallet issues, and also you believe that government should stay out of moral issues, you're actually going to fall in this quadrant. So there's some overlap with the libertarians, but not entirely. If you folks fall in this bottom right-hand quadrant, you folks are what are known as my liberals. And in an American context, we could probably call this Democrat. Now, a couple of things to think about. Democrats are generally going to believe in that Robin Hood theory. Let's take from the rich and let's give to the poor. We don't want to have too few people to have too much of the economic resources, but really we want everybody to have enough. And when you think about it, you know, the libertarians before, we said, if you can't make your own money, well, we're not really going to help you. The liberals are going to say, hey, listen, if you can't make your own, if you can't provide for yourself, government is going to provide for you. It's going to provide for you when you think about it by collecting taxes from other people that can, or even more than afford to pay for themselves. So there's some of that Robin Hood, taking from the wealthier and giving to the poor. Specifically with Emery and Bowie, on 4 of the 7, you both believe that government should regulate economic issues. So again, depending upon the issue, generally speaking, you lean toward government regulation. With this in mind, you'll notice you're on the exact same line as Rosario, Sam, Eleni, and Asmara, which basically means on 5 of the 7, you believe that government should stay out of morals. So with this in mind, even though you're in a very difficult or different quadrant, you have the exact same moral mindset as these other 4 that are libertarians. So when you think about it, you're actually solidly liberal, Emery and Bowie, in terms of moral issues. You're more moderate liberal in terms of economic ones. Now, generally speaking, when you do this in college classes, liberal is the winning category all the way around. I'll talk more about this in a couple of minutes and give you a couple of things to think about. For our purposes, though, the liberals are actually the smallest category of the 4 that we've got up here. Now, as we keep going, and if you want to go caddy this time, so we're going to go up into the upper left-hand corner. You'll notice up here, Stephanie, Fernando, Susan, Nancy, Corey, Walker, Margaret. There weren't a lot of surprises as far as I was concerned as I began to look at this. If you believe that government should regulate moral issues, meaning there are certain decisions that people should not be allowed to make for themselves, but frankly, government can make them better in terms of moral issues. And if you believe that government should stay out of the wallet, meaning if you earn your money, you should be allowed to keep it, you are actually what are known as my conservatives. You folks are what are known as my conservatives. Now, when you think about this, and just to put this in a very basic sense, this is probably a lot of republicanism in an American context. Now, Stephanie and Fernando, you folks really both fell, if you change one question, you could have ended up in any of these 4 blocks. So Stephanie and Fernando, you're leaning conservative, but you're very middle of the road, again, depending upon the issue. As you move across here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, dear God, Nancy, on 6 of the 7 questions, you said government should stay out of economic issues. I earned it, it's mine, I should be able to control it, I should be able to keep it kind of a thing. However, Nancy, in terms of moral issues, you have the exact same mindset as Stephanie and Fernando, as Susan, as Nancy, and even some people in the other quadrant, which we're going to get to in just a second. On 4 of the 7, you believed in regulating morals. So basically, you're a very strong economic conservative, but you're a very moderate moral conservative, just again, depending upon the issue. As you go further up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, my God, Walker and Margaret, this doesn't surprise me with you at all. On 6 of the 7 questions, you believe that government should regulate morals. So you're a very strong moral conservative. On 1, 2, 3, on 5 of the 7, Walker and Margaret, you actually believe that government should stay out of economic issues. So you two are very, very strong moral conservatives. You are strong economic conservatives. And note on this, and I think it's kind of self-explanatory, but just to say, if this is the center, The further that you get away from the center, the more extreme your beliefs are. Maybe even the more set in your beliefs you are. So notice Stephanie and Fernando and Annie, as we mentioned before, y'all pretty close. Willow over in the other quadrant, pretty close. As you go further away though, Nancy is much stronger. Walker and Margaret, you're much stronger as well. Corey, you actually fall somewhere in between 5 out of 7 and 5 out of 7. Just a good, solid, Republican, conservative kind of a mindset. Now notice on this with the conservatives, they are typically, like I said, going to believe in more economic freedom. They're going to believe in more economic freedom, more moral regulation. And when you go back to that other quadrant dealing with the liberals, they're the exact opposite of the liberals. The liberals are going to believe in more economic regulation, but also more moral kinds of freedom. So anytime these quadrants are basically catty-corner like this, they have nothing in common. If you want to go back and just focus on the bottom here for just a second, the liberals and the libertarians share the bedroom line. So they're going to believe in really government not regulating morals, although they have a very different view on economics. And if you notice with the conservatives and the libertarians, they're sharing the wallet line, which means that they're not going to believe in government regulating economics. Both of them are. Now, the fourth quadrant is the last one. And usually, the one that I have the most difficulty filling, although not in your class, is this fourth quadrant. And this fourth quadrant is a plus, plus. And what I mean by that is, if you fell in this quadrant, you believe that government is going to need to regulate morals, and government is going to have to regulate economics. Now think about it like this. Basically what you're saying in this fourth quadrant is that government, in the government, can make better decisions for people than people can make for themselves in their own lives. So it's not like this is necessarily an oppressive thing, especially not in the beginning. Really what you're trying to do is you're trying to help Joe and Jane Sixpack stand on their own 2 feet because, quite frankly, they struggle standing without your assistance. So when you think about it, moral issues like weed, moral issues like gay marriage, moral issues like prayer. We're going to want the government involved in these kinds of things. We want to promote the proper values. When it comes to helping people pay for things, we're also going to be interested in this. Now you'll notice we've got 3 names, all females: Georgine, Willow, and Carolina. Now Willow, again, we've talked about being 1 block away from the center. If you change 1 question, you could be in any number of these categories. However, Georgine and Carolina, you're very different. Carolina, on 5 of the 7 questions, you said that government should regulate economic issues to help those that don't have enough. On 4 of the 7 questions, you believed in regulating moral issues. So Carolina, you're actually a good, solid economic populist. You are very moderate, though, in terms of morals. Georgine, you're the exact opposite. On 5 of the 7, you said that government should regulate bedroom issues. On 4 of the 7, you said that government should regulate economics. You are a solid populist in terms of moral issues. However, you're much more moderate in terms of the economic ones. Now here's the interesting thing about the populists. The populists are generally going to believe that government should act in order to help people. What happens is that they always start with good intentions. The problem, though, is that sometimes when they have successes especially, they're going to begin to want to regulate more and more and more and more. And to be honest with you, what started off as a good idea can become problematic. Let me say this in another way. Georgine and Carolina, the way that you score on this, you're most likely in class to have control issues. And I'm just curious to hear if, in fact, when you come back to class next Tuesday, if you ask around if people would agree with that. Now, these are the 4 quadrants, and for test purposes, please understand the regulation between bedroom and wallet and government regulation. Which group regulates regulates economics and morals? Which group doesn't regulate economics and morals? Which group regulates morals and not economics? And which group regulates economics and not morals for test purposes? The other piece to this, and let me draw just in some of the blank page here, and again, I'll zoom in a little bit so that we've got a little bit more space. If we're just looking at this in terms of being a graph, think about your life really as this big U on here. And the idea is that if this is you in terms of youth, and this is you more in terms of old age, and then down here, this is maybe you more in terms of middle age. When you think about it at the beginning, generally speaking, the younger that you are, the more liberal you're going to be. And the idea is let's be honest about this. If liberals are going to believe in people having personal freedom, if liberals are going to believe, in fact, that government should help people that can't always help themselves, it makes sense. I mean, I know when I was in college, I didn't really have a nice place to live. I know when I was in college, I really didn't have that nice car. I know when I was in college, I didn't have kids or a lot of responsibilities. It makes sense that maybe government would need to look out for me more. Frankly, a lot of people in college want legalized weed. So, I mean, when you think about it in that sense, it makes sense that you would be a little bit more liberal. Funny thing happens, though, when you get to middle age. When you get to middle age, generally speaking, you're going to become more conservative. Now, let me explain this and let me stress this in a very, very easy way. Let me stress this. What I'm saying is that not everybody that's young is going to be liberal, but people are going to be more liberal when they're younger than just about at any other point in their life. When you get to middle age, I'm not saying that everybody is going to be conservative, but what I'm saying is that you're going to be more conservative than you would be typically at any other point in your life. Because when you think about it, now you have things. As you middle age, now you're going to have that good job. You're going to have that good car. You're going to have that house. You're going to have kids and a mortgage. You're going to have responsibilities. You're going to want government to be able to protect you a little bit more because you've got more things that you need protecting. Kind of a basic thing. Now, as you get older, funny thing happens. You begin to switch again, and you go back more in the sense of being liberal at old age. Now, let me again stress this. I'm not saying that all old people are liberal, but what I'm saying is that you're going to be more liberal in your older age than you are going to be at almost any other point in your life. And think about it. The mortgage is paid. The kids are grown. You're not really working anymore. Money's not an issue. If people in their youth want free weed, people in old age want free prescription drugs. It's the same thing when you think about it. So as you look at this is kind of the way that your political mindset is going to develop. And the younger ages, you're going to be more liberal, but I'm not saying completely liberal. As you get to middle age, you're going to be more conservative, but not completely conservative. And then when you swing back to old age, again, you're going to be more liberal than you will be at other points. But again, that's not to say that everybody is. And if you get a question, who is most likely to have the control issues in class? It's got to be either Carolina or Georgine. Good luck as you study for the exam.
Do I hit the red button?